We're moving on to the next presentation, which is actually a case study. As a matter of fact, we're going to discuss how to establish an effective global MDM initiative, taking the example of Pfeifer. The next presentation will be, of course, led by our Fire Elite partner, Viamedici, and we have both Al Bissmeyer, who is the Vice President of North and South America at Viamedici. He has an extensive experience of 30 years
and I'm excited
working
to
for
have
companies.
our customer Pfeifer.
That was quick. For 30 years in companies like Microsoft, Commerce One, Emerson, and IBM, and help them gain market share through effective use of emerging technology. Of course, he will be with Noel Kienzle, who is the head of consulting and implementation at Viamedici and has direct experience with the Pfeifer case. Take it away.
Presenting their case study today. It's a wonderful case study about the complexity and how they've worked with MDM, and we'll get to that soon. But before we get started, I'd like to just give a brief introduction of Viamedici and some background, and I promise it won't be long because we want to get to the good stuff. We've been in business for over 20 years, and we provide a full platform and solution that covers everything from multi-domain MDM to product information management to digital asset management to dynamic configuration or guided selling. And one of the things that we're seeing is that we've been very lucky in the last few years of actually receiving a number of awards as being the #1 MDM solution in the marketplace. Part of this is because of the technology that we encompass and utilize as part of our solution stack. But another part of it is because of the way that we work with our customers and put our customers first. And in the last year, as I mentioned, we not only have won awards for technical competency in terms of being the best from a technical perspective, but recently won an award for being an emotional leader, which is actually awarded to organizations for doing what they say they'll do, overcoming or overachieving in terms of implementation and providing success to our customers. If you look at us, we actually have over 350 customers, and we have 99.3% customer retention rate, and that's over the 20-year history that we've had as an organization. We're growing extremely rapidly at greater than over 100% for our cloud business. Our revenues are growing at over 20% annually. And so a lot of exciting things are going on with regards to Viamedici. We're a global company. We have locations throughout the world. We do a lot of our business in Europe. We're growing very rapidly in North America and also in Asia. If you look at our customers, most of our customers are global. Most of our customers are over $1 billion in revenue. I'd say probably the majority of our customers are dealing with over 50 languages that they manage and hundreds of markets that they localize their product sets into. We have probably 80% of our customers are actually using SAP as a backend in terms of an ERP solution set. And we do a lot with CRM systems, including Salesforce and Dynamics CRM from Microsoft. From a platform perspective, one of the things that really differentiates us is not only do we manage all domain data in terms of being multiple domain, but we also make our product information and customer information available in real time. So once the data is approved and goes through a workflow process, which is included as part of the solution stack, you actually have the ability to take the data and stick it into a data store. And that data is made available real time for real-time analysis, as well as for operational master data management. So you're actually pushing it out for sales and for information that's required for everybody that's within your value chain. As I mentioned, we are a multi-domain solution with product, location, suppliers, chart of accounts, channel management, market management, and ultimately what we're seeing a lot of is predominantly product data and party data. If we look at the industries that we serve, we have a number of companies that are actually using our solution. The fastest growing markets are really the building supply and building materials, as well as healthcare and pharma is really taking off for us. So those are the verticals that we're seeing quite a bit in. And depending on the organization and the industry, it's either product or customer that leads, followed by the other, and then supplier for traceability of the information that's being brought through the organization. These are some of the actual applications or things that are done from MDM, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Ultimately, we are considered best in class in these areas by our customers and by the analysts that have actually put this out there. So they've done an assessment and they did a recording, and the customers came back and said that these are the things that we do very well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Noel, who is the Vice President of Services and has been responsible for the Pfeifer implementation and how they've actually managed their MDM initiatives. Noel?
Thank you, Al, for that introduction. My name is Noel Kienzle. I'm the VP of Consulting and Implementation at Viamedici, heading all projects and implementations and services with our customers. And I'm happy today to join this meeting and tell you about a case study we've done with one of our customers, a big customer called Pfeifer. Unfortunately, they cannot join us today, so we have to present that case study to you on our own. But we want to thank them for their allowance that we can share this information with you. First of all, let me introduce you the company Pfeifer. It's based in Memmingen in Germany. It was founded in 1579, so it's a very traditional company, started as a craftsman creating ropes. However, right now this is a global company with more than 1,500 employees and doing very complex global projects like the Alliance Fields. You can see some of these projects here in the images. This is very complex construction site supply. They're doing cables for cranes and all sort of huge constructions like the Sophie Stadium. So these are very complex hanging structures of any sort of building projects, and also the supply for all those building constructions require a huge amounts of data to be provided to anyone. Just to give you an impression of what this means, they have more than 1 billion network data records in 6 domains. They have more than 30 languages, and all this information needs to be reference hosted, maintained, and provided to those who need it at any point. One example, what they did, for example, was in 2019, they manufactured a steel rope carpet, which was used for the Eisenhower Memorial in Washington, D.C. So, to give you an insight in the projects we did with them over the years, when they started working with us in the field of MDM, they had some huge pains. They had inconsistent data. They had a huge complexity. They didn't have a central system managing all their data. The data was incomplete. The systems were not connected to each other. So they just didn't have the right data at the right places for the right people. That can cost millions in projects. So they needed to take care to have that data available wherever it is needed to the right time for the right people. So the solution, in a nutshell, was they started a global MDM initiative with us. They were striving to go for cross-border commerce, provide their data split by regions, country, and market segments, also for the business units. They had a big business goal, increasing online revenue. They were coming from print, a very traditional field, PIM and print, and were now digitalization of all fields and going for a multi-domain system, and also looking at the processes and of course the internal organization structure. This sounds like they did a big bang, which is actually not the truth. They did a step-by-step approach and followed that path over the years, and are now at a very good situation with a nice system in place that helps them providing all the data. We will see that later. So how did they do that initiative? So key, of course, is in a change process, always the people. You have to get the buy-in from the shareholder, from the senior management. You have also to include the end users to get the acceptance in all fields. You have to review your processes. You have to be open to adjust your processes, focus on the quick wins, of course, because that helps going ahead step by step, providing the benefits to all involved people. You have to use the right tools, but be aware, of course, we all know a fool with a tool is still a fool. So processes and tools have to be used at the right time, and they have to be used correctly. The teams have to be educated to not use the wrong tools, but also know how to use the tools. Two examples for usage of tools at that point are our data store, for example, as a central data hub. We will see that in the architecture in detail later on. And of course, integrate the processes and the tools purposefully. The progress was then done dynamically. We were following agile dynamics. It was an ongoing process, and it's still ongoing because they are looking for the future and applying changes and adjustments at any time. So they are open to adapt at any point. And also if they see at some point that something doesn't work out like they planned, they will change and adapt. The start they did in that approach was with one business unit, and right now they changed from when they started the project with us with 8 business units, very fragmented. They have 3 business units, and all of them are on our system landscape and doing very well. Current system is highly integrated. They have an SAP system that is integrated with the Viamedici system, hosting all the data. They have attached their website content management system and their web shop. Also, they have additional traditional exports in regards to marketplaces where XML is used. But of course, the central data hub is our real-time data store that provides data for any kind of system for real-time access and usage. Within the MDM, they have customers, they have products, they have assets, they also have project information. They basically have everything they need for their digital initiatives. They can provide the data for e-commerce, for the CMS. The data is also split up by markets and segments, countries or regions, business units. They have also expert contacts, so everyone can directly access and contact the right people. They have everything pushed to their website and also to their store systems and all regions. So the data is available for those who need it. So here's one of those reference projects, but not the project itself is so much interesting, but as you can see, this is a screenshot from their homepage, and all this information is stored within the MDM system and then pushed to their website and other areas where this information is needed. There is the complete information about that project, all references, all contact information. You can see who was the engineer, when was it built, when was the project done, and all that information. So everyone who is looking for that information can access it directly and can then, of course, when we scroll a bit down, get the contact information, get directly in touch with the responsible people to get his project going and move ahead, which saves a lot of time and money at that point, and also gives consistent access to all that information. A little glimpse of the future. As I said in the beginning, they are moving ahead, and digitalization is an ongoing process that never stops. Right now, They are very open to those brand new technologies based on AI, like translation services that is AI supported, and also creating marketing texts using all the new chatbot tools and so on. They are adding continuously additional domains to the system and storing all that information centrally, providing it to all other systems that need to consume it. And one of the next steps they are looking at is the integration of guided selling, which is a configurator price quote system that directly attaches to their e-commerce systems and provides capabilities of configuring complex products and push them either directly in a purchase process or in a production process. So this is where they are going, but they are also looking to the right and to the left what will be new things that are upcoming and that will provide additional support to their business. And we're looking forward to do these projects together with them. And at that point, I am at the end of my presentation. I thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thanks, Noel. That was really interesting. I'll tell you, the more I've learned about Pfeifer, the more I realize the complexity that's associated with these massive projects that they're doing. One of the things I saw and read is that they actually, with the roofing suspension systems that they're doing with all these stadiums, that their business is taking off, and it really kind of speaks to the complexity that's involved in the suspension roofing in general. The SoFi project that you referenced, actually there's an article that's been written about it that speaks to all the different components and the complexity with regards to managing that, from project management to the materials that are being utilized to information around who the producers are and the history of it. One of the things I noted in the article itself actually spoke to the fact that when they put that roof up, it actually had 23 kilometers of pre-assembled steel cables that are associated with it. So tons of data and tons of complexity, as you mentioned. And if anybody in this presentation would like to read more about it, you can go to the Pfeifer Partners website. I think we're going to post up a link where you can actually read about the whole SoFi project in general. And there's other projects that are referenced in there that talk about the how data is delivered and how it's made available for the project management teams just in time. With that, we're looking forward to your questions. Thanks a lot.
All right, and we are back, waiting for Al and Noel to be on stage. And yeah, you need to think, when a company has such a history, 1579 or something, it must be particularly difficult. And hey, Al, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, P.O.?
I'm doing very well. Noel, joining us as well. Almost. All right. So as I was saying, Al, the very first thing that I noticed is that Pfeifer is quite an old company. And the first two steps in the transformation process addressed people and processes. Now, when a company is that old, is it particularly difficult to create changes? Does it come with a lot of, let's say, ingrained baggage and past that makes the project take longer?
I think in Pfeiffer's case, because of what they're dealing with and the construction and supply industry in general, I think that one of the things that they had that helps with MDM is they had an identifiable need. So they were able to articulate the why to their team. And the why is, we need to do this because if we don't do this, we're not going to be able to be in business and address the challenges that are there. So with all these MDM initiatives, if you're able to articulate and get the team behind the why are we doing this? What is the purpose? And people get buy-in to the why, then they're able to articulate it and they see the benefit of it. So in Pfeiffer's case, one of the things you're seeing is and they've evolved obviously with their product set. They're doing a lot with cabling, and the roofing business, as I mentioned, is taking off. All these stadiums are putting domes on their stadiums, and they're involved in lots of projects with museums and orchestras and lots of different venues essentially. And if you don't have the product data available immediately, then you have machinery that's sitting on the site and you're losing millions of dollars on that project. So they need data. And so I think their team was able to identify with the why and the need and the challenge. And then what they did is, as Noel mentioned, is they figured out, well, what are the things that we can do that are most impactful in terms of project bites, if you will. Let's get this part of the product available so that we can address this requirements for the A&E and construction firms that are working with our product.
Very good. Now, a question for both of you. We talked about real-time MDM. Is it something, can you tell me a little bit more about it? Is it different from what is normally used on the market, and what are the benefits of real-time MDM?
Yeah, so I'll take it first, and I'll maybe you can go second. But real time. So if you look at MDM in terms of MDM itself, I think there's a big push to determine what is master data versus what is operational data. And I actually think that more and more companies are pushing the envelope to look at and say, hey, transactional data is something that we want to be able to assess, and there's a blurring of the lines in terms of where things are. But ultimately what happens is, and this is one of the things that we do with our solution, is we make the master data available in real time to anybody that needs to consume it, which ultimately means that you're pushing things more to the edge, if you will, or to the where it's being consumed by a customer or somebody that's downstream in the sales value chain. And so they're able to access the product data or the customer data or the supplier data in real time. It's not a batch process. If something changes, if there's a change in the data or a product that's available or not available, that's immediately done with real time. And so that's what we're seeing, and it's a huge benefit for organizations. So it gets very close to transactional aspects of things, if you will. Noel, I jumped on it. You're muted. It looks like maybe Noel's having some technical problems. So, that's I think the short of it from a real time perspective.
Okay, and of course, you know what you managed to achieve there already is quite remarkable. But I'm also very interested about where the company is heading next. And I have heard the term guided selling. What is it? What is it going to realistically bring in terms of growth and benefits? Tell me something more about it.
Yeah, so guided selling is an interesting thing. So a lot of people, if you look at the industry, people have a concept called CPQ, which is, it deals with pricing, and configure price quote is what the actual term itself means. But really what guided selling is that it's actually a controlled configuration, if you will. So as you're going through and making a selection on a product set, if you make a selection that is not viable, then it'll come back and say, hey, this isn't viable, and it'll let you make selections. And when you get to the conclusion of your selection, then you're able to fulfill the order. So in the case of Pfeifer, as an example, if you're looking at cabling, you look at tensile strength and you look at a specific cabling for the support of a structure. And so there may be some groups that are putting together a configuration for that construction project. And if they make a selection that's not viable, then it'll come back and say, hey, this isn't viable based on either something that's required from a compliance perspective or some limitation that's there. And then they can go through and someone that's actually putting together the order can actually configure the actual the pre-configured cable and make all that configuration before it's actually made available to do the project. So that's guided selling. It's actually kind of being able to make selections with guardrails. And what we see in some applications is you may have let the customer actually do the guided selling and go through their configuration. And then they may pass that on to a sales expert or an expert within the organization just to review it to make sure that it's a viable order and that it makes sense. But they have the option to either do it directly or to do it with oversight from an internal expert.
I understand. So it basically, let's say, it doesn't replace the need of a salesperson, but it definitely makes it possible for the customer to go for it himself without interacting with a salesperson.
It could
What?
replace the salesperson.
Yeah.
I'd say, in 40% of the, depending on who's doing the purchasing, you may be able to make the purchase and the selection without having sales involvement, essentially. In other instances, you may want to, have someone review it prior to the submission. So you have flexibility with regards to that. And that's what guided selling really provides. It's really, and we're seeing this across the whole industry. I mean, as organizations get into more self-service, whether it's analytics or operational, the idea of being able to provide something that someone can make a selection and configuration on their own, self-service wise, is where the industry and where everything's going. So, which also goes in hand with the real time because people are looking for speed.
Yeah, if I may jump in, I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. No. But just with some points which think are very important to configuration. As we're talking about digitalization, the configuration does not necessarily need to replace the salesperson, as I mentioned. It doesn't even necessarily need to be part of a classic e-commerce project, as it's just digitalization of processes. And within this process, it can be used at any point during a process, like configuring it, pushing something to production systems, like producing those complex products, or pushing it to a procurement process, like you mentioned, must not be a salesperson, but anyone else. So this is very important, and also what Al pointed out, what I like to highlight is that the configurator allows you to set up a product without running into a dead end. So it knows at any point options are viable for you.
Okay, I see. Do you think that these aspects are these functions are more for a specific industry or for B2B, B2C, or are the customers from both sides, and this is something that is going to benefit any kind of client?
So I think it's interesting. And we may have addressed this in customer experience in a previous thing, but I think one of the things we're seeing is that customers have become Amazon, which means that they actually want to have stuff immediately. They expect to be able to go online, get what they need when they're looking for it, and actually have it fulfilled either that afternoon or the next day. So fulfillment is another aspect of this in addition to the data itself. And what we're seeing that the B2C market is much the same as the B2B market. And it's just like they did with the old cell phones. Phones, the consumer market had something and people started bringing their phones to work. And the next thing you know, you're having to kind of work through that. The same thing holds true for B2B. Business consumers, while the products that they're configuring or ordering are usually more complex, they still want to have the ease of self-service. They want to have the ability to do configuration. They want to be able to get the data that they need to make the determinations. So if anything, this whole self-service and configuration thing with data, it's putting more of an emphasis on good data because more and more people have to be able to get to it and it has to be accurate. And in the old days, you may have had a few people in your organization that knew the specifics and could go address things when someone was making an inquiry. Now people want to be able to make the inquiry, and the inquiry is referring to a data set that needs to be accurate data.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it was really a pleasure to have you, Al and Noel. Of course, we're going to talk to you, Al, later on during the marathon. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing the Pfeifer story as well as answering the questions. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Pia. I appreciate it. And I'd encourage anybody to read that article. It's very interesting.
Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll see you later.